people. We have a very, very special guest joining us. And as you can tell, I'm very excited about this special guest. He goes by the name of Bitty McLean. He's joining us live and direct. Right here on the Big Bad Station with yours truly, DJKat the Kat-a-lyst. And of course, big shout out to everybody loving and feeling the vibes and the energy already. So, you know, without further ado, I feel like this great artist needs to introduce themselves. So, Bitty McLean, you there?
DJ Kat, I'm here, live and direct.
Every time, every time. So, of course, Bitty McLean, first of all, welcome to the Big Bad Station.
Time out for me, give me some time, some airspace.
Anytime, anytime. You're always welcome. So, of course, let the people know, let the listeners know, who is Bitty McLean?
Bitty McLean is a singer, songwriter from Chelmsley Wood, Birmingham, born 1972, and who has celebrating 30 years in the music industry. Started 1993, and you just took me right back to 1992 when I recorded that song, Here I Stand. You make me feel old.
Wow, you know what? I feel like I'm going to make you feel even older now, because I was born in 1993.
Oh Lord.
But you know what, your music still stands, because I'm listening to it and it's fantastic even to this day.
Yeah, wicked. That's the vibes. I mean, when I was growing up, we had great peers and great teachers in the music that we learned from. You know, the greats like Ken Booth, Alton Ellis, Delroy Wilson, and great musicians like Sly Dunbar and Robbie Shakespeare. So we learned from the best, and I hope I've kind of taken a leaf from the page of some of the greats of Jamaican music. Yeah,
definitely. And you know what, I understand that your father played a big role in that from his sound system. Tell us about that kind of tender age and tender moment.
My first impression of music was my dad's sound system. Growing up in Chelmsley Wood, my dad had a small sound system that used to play blues parties and a local community centre in the area where I grew up. I was the youngest of 6 children, so I wasn't old enough to stand around the sound or turn up when my dad was setting up the sound. My older brothers had that privilege of being there in the early days when my dad was running his sound system. But like I say, in the early days, like 1975, 76, I could remember as a young child my dad going through his record box, sorting out his selection for the night to go out and play his sound system, and seeing the valve amplifiers and the speakers and the echo chamber and the microphone. These things fascinated me from a very young age, and I just carried it through. I had my mind set from a very early age that it was music that I wanted to pursue, whether it was a sound engineer or as a singer. That was the route I really wanted to take. And it's really courtesy of growing up in a family that loved Jamaican music and my dad's sound system. And my mum used to help out as well. My mum used to be around the bar.
So a real family affair.
So growing up in a household where music was at the forefront is the beginning of everything where music is concerned.
Wow. You know, for those who don't know necessarily about sound system, you know, how would you describe it, like kind of the atmosphere and getting to know a sound system?
Well, I think the UK or the British would describe it as a discotheque.
Yeah.
But we know it as a sound system because it's coming from a Jamaican concept. Yeah. Which is the energy and the attitude, which is how the music is played. 18-inch speakers, 15-inch speakers, 12-inch, and the whole attitude of how the music is played is different than a discotheque. I mean, a discotheque would just plug up 2 little speakers either side and play the most popular songs, whereas a sound system would drive that song.
That's it.
The bass. And in Jamaica, they would put the steel horns up in the trees so people would follow the sound and go to the dance and find where the dance was playing, all the big sounds of that era. So my dad knows it from way back when, in that days before he left Jamaica to come to England. You know, he had gone to listen to early sound systems, but again, the early sound systems in Jamaica were playing rhythm and blues. Yeah. So it wasn't even ska or rock steady in that era when my dad was in his days, of his teenage days. It was artists like Fats Domino, Wynonie Harris, early rhythm and and blues, rock and roll artists that were being played by these sound systems in Jamaica. But like I say, the attitude and the way that the music was played is different concepts than what we knew in England. As when I say a discotheque, a sound system is a different concept in that sense.
Definitely, you have to feel the vibration, right?
The vibration, yeah. We call it attitude in music. It plays with a certain attitude.
Yeah.
Hard attitude, yeah.
I hear that 100%. And I understand as well you helped UB40 with their successful album Promises and Lies. Tell us about that journey.
My journey began with UB40, courtesy of Alan Caves, who taught me at college. I went to college for 2 years in Wednesbury, which is near Wolverhampton, and I studied sound engineering when I left school.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to be taught by a gentleman by the name of Alan Caves, who had previously worked for UB40 in their Red Wine era of their career. And he saw my potential because I was one of the students that lived in the studio. You couldn't get me out the studio, whether it was recording or mixing or putting down my little ideas. He just saw that I was someone that was dedicated and learned very quickly in the studio. So when there was a position in UB40 studio, he recommended me, and I went down there and I met Dave Sneed, who was the maintenance engineer, and we just kicked off. We just got on from day one, and he said, "Okay, Bitty, we'll see you on Monday." And I got the position as assistant engineer. So that was 1991, I believe, going into 1992. Wow. And at that time, the band UB40 were on tour, so I had like 6-7 months to get used to the studio and get my feet under the desk and stuff like that. Yeah. And during that time, I was still recording my own ideas and demos in the studio. So by the time they got back off tour, I was well accomplished in setting up the studio and setting up a session and running a session. I worked with Jerry Parchment, who was their number one engineer. He was their live engineer, and when it came to recording Promises and Lies, he was chief engineer. So I was working with Jerry for 2 to 3 years, and I sang on harmonies, I played some instruments, played some bass lines on the album, and it became one of their biggest selling albums, Promises and Lies.
And how does that make you feel? I mean, what do you say?
To be honest, you don't think about it, DJ Kat, because it's just like, it's your profession, it's your job. So I never really went home and sat down and, beat my chest and say, this is what I do. It's moments like now where I'm in conversation and you kind of reflect back at the things you've done, but I just keep moving, it was just my work at that time, and I'm the kind of person in the studio, I want the best for the song or the production. It doesn't matter who I'm working with, who I'm voicing, I'm mixing for. I always try to bring out the best, and I working with Sly and Robbie, I witnessed the same work ethic, which is to get the best out of the music. You always give 100% to everything you do, because at the end of the day, your name is going to be on the product. So you have to really step up and give 100% to any product. The worst thing is to have your name associated to something that is half-baked, as we say.
100% agree with that. You know what? One of my favourite tunes from you is Walk Away From Love. And I've got to ask you, where did that come from? Because it's amazing.
Walk Away From Love is originally sung by David Ruffin, who is one of the members from one of the greatest soul groups, or greatest groups, I'd say. I wouldn't even categorise them as just as a soul group. The Temptations had 3 of the greatest lead vocalists, in my opinion. David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks and Paul Williams. And I don't know, you're not too young to know the Temptations. You must know a couple of their hit songs. But I was recording the album on Bond Street. I was in my studio recording and working on ideas and loops and putting rhythms together. And I decided that if anyone in the Rocksteady era was going to cover a song, it would have to be from a certain era in soul music, because there's so many soul songs that were covered by Alton Ellis, Pat Kelly, all of the original artists, Delroy Wilson. They all covered soul and R&B songs. So I was searching for a song that would fit into that particular era. And I was going through a CD with the lead singers, like I say, of the Temptations, David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks and Paul Williams. And if it wasn't Walk Away From Love, it would have been a song from any of those particular vocalists, because I believe they're 3 of the greatest vocalists in music, period. And I just heard Walk Away From Love, and while I was listening to the rhythm that I put together, it just clicked, and I thought, this is it. Voiced it, and that was it. You know, like they say, the rest is history. That was voiced, I believe, January 2003. It was recorded and it was released in May 2003. And yeah, we say the rest is history. DJ Kat.
100%.
It took off like a storm, and 20 years later, it's still being discovered. So the power of music. It's not even me, if that sounds correct, because we have a saying in music: the music alone shall live.
Yeah.
So it's not really about the artist or the musician. Enough respect to the artists and the musicians, but the music. You know, when a song captures someone's heart or touches a nerve, it lives forever. You know, you hear a song and it takes you right back to that moment in time. It becomes a soundtrack, if that makes sense, in your life. A certain song. So I'm kind of satisfied that, you know, Walk Away and some of the other songs that I've recorded and written or voiced have become certain soundtracks in people's lives. It's amazing.
For real. And you know, one thing I wanted to ask you is, I can tell by the music you produce and what you put out there that you really care about the music. So I wanted to know, as an artist, do you feel that responsibility on what you put out for your listeners?
Oh, definitely, yes. And I'm not an artist that releases lots of music throughout the year. I'll spend time working on a concept or a project. I believe it's better to make an LP rather than just put out singles or work with 10 or 12 different producers.
Yeah.
So I kind of work on a concept, and it's been great to work with Sly and Robbie for the past 15, 16 years. It's been the greatest chapter of my musical career, to be honest. I haven't written as much songs and I haven't released as much songs as in the period that I've worked with Sly and Robbie, but I really do take it serious. I don't think it's a joke to throw music out. I've never had that attitude, and again, like I say, it goes right back to where the conversation began, you know, growing up with music or listening to music from my peers, and we took it serious. You know, music wasn't like computer games when we were growing up, or the TV. It was a really serious part of growing up, and the kind of music that my dad played was conscious, it was uplifting, and we learned a lot from that as a family. And I kind of put that energy and that whole concept into what I do, you know, whether it's a love song or it's a conscious song. It's serious work. It's and the music, like I say, music alone shall live. So why create something that is disposable? You know, like you just bought a McDonald's and you just screwing up the wrapper and throwing it on the floor. I don't see music as like that. No, I really do take music very seriously.
100%. And you know, you spoke earlier about Sly and Robbie and their influence on you and kind of being the best time of your career, sort of thing. And I wanted to know, why is that? What about those two? I can imagine what it could be, but what is it about them two?
Before I even met Sly and Robbie, as a child, we used to mime, you know, like people play air guitar. We used to play air drum. I'd be saying, I'm Sly, because we used to look at the back of the LPs and we'd see all these names: drums, Sly Dunbar, Horsemouth, Santa, bass guitar, Robbie Shakespeare, Family Man Barrett, you know, Forward, and we just used to be fascinated. Who are these people playing all this music? Because it really captivated you, especially in the 70s, where dub music was prevalent and becoming a major force, dub. And you look at the back of the sleeve and it's like Sly and Robbie. And so before I even knew Sly and Robbie, I can't even believe I've worked with them for so long. I've had the opportunity to even walk on stage with them. I think if I only recorded one song with Sly and Robbie, that would have been a great marker on my CV. But like I say, to work with them for so long, and it has been the greatest chapter, because I love their work ethic. They give 100% to everything they do, and sitting there watching how they work, it's just like, you can't believe, you know, it's like quick couple of minutes rehearsal, like red light and the rhythm's laid next. And we can knock out like 16 rhythms in an afternoon. You think, where did they find the vibes to do this? So I've just been blessed to share the same studio and share the same stage with them. You know, Sly and Robbie, Robbie Lynn, Sticky Thompson, Nambo Robinson. You know, the list goes on of the great musicians that I've had the pleasure of sitting in the studio and seeing how they work and create, because their work ethic hasn't changed in the past 40, 50 years. I mean, I was born in the 70s, and Sly and Robbie were around, even then they were around for a good 10 years before I was even born, and you know, they were still had the love and the energy to still create, you know, and develop the music and shape it. So it's been a great chapter, definitely.
100%. And you know, for say the up and coming artists, those of this era, I suppose you could say, do you feel like we should have more live sessions, more music, live music in an actual recording studio sort of vibe?
I think that, to be honest, I think that's been a stumbling block in music, because it has its plus and its minuses, because it's great that you can switch on your laptop or your computer and you can create music. That's a great thing to have that at your fingertips. Because when I was growing up, to hire a studio was out of the question. I mean, we weren't rich. I couldn't afford to pay to go into a studio at the age of 16. I was fortunate that I was on a college course learning sound engineering, so a studio was at my disposal. So I think it's great that young people have all this technology at their fingertips. But on the other side of the coin is that nothing beats music that is created with 4 or 5 different minds. I suppose it's a bit like running a sound system. A one-man sound system will never be the same as a sound system that has a collective of people behind it, because when you think you're doing something right, someone else can always suggest, play that song next, or tune up the sound a little bit more, or you know, or so it's, I think, a collective, and that's been missing from the 90s. When the digital era came in, the music changed, and the studios that were built weren't built to house a drum kit or even a 3-piece band. It was really about a drum machine and a keyboard, and I don't think that was a great thing for reggae music. You know, we had some great hits that came out of the digital era, but if we're going back to the foundation, I don't think we should have moved or strayed too far from the foundation of the music, which is a collective of musicians. And even to the point of, you know, how can I put it? Singers being auditioned before they walk in the studio. I think that is the reason why we have so much great music that came out of Jamaica, because artists were auditioned before they even stepped into a studio, or before a musician even stepped into a studio. You'd have to prove your worth before. You couldn't just walk into a Studio One or a Treasure Isle, or a Lee Perry or a Channel One. You know, these were seasoned musicians that were creating and making the music, and the artists that were allowed to step through the door had something to say, had quality about them. So I'm probably sounding like I'm old-fashioned, but I think there's some things to take from the old way, and there's some things to take from the new way of doing things. It's a balance in that sense.
100%. To be honest with you, I actually agree with you in the sense of, I like it when, you know, you see 5 or 6 sound men on a sound system unifying together to build what they want to hear.
That's how I knew it, you know, that's how I knew it when I was standing around sounds like Wasifa and Now Generation at the age of like 9 or 10 and getting a chance to hold the microphone. You could see the creativity around the sound and the vibes around the sound. It wasn't a one-man band. I mean, I'm not a one-man band. I'm Bitty McLean. I'm not a band member or anything, but I have musicians and people that work with me to create what I do, and it's a collective effort.
100%. So, you know, I've got to ask you, was you auditioned to get into a studio at any point?
No, I produced and done all my things myself, but the good thing for me was working with UB40. I had the best critics. So when I recorded It Keeps Raining, for example, and I played it to Ali Campbell, the lead singer of UB40, the first thing he said was, the song's wicked, but the drum beat's rubbish.
Oh, okay.
And he sat around the drum kit and said, Bitty, play this drum beat on the song. And he played, and he didn't have to play it twice. I remember what he played. He left the studio and I played the beat and everything, put it together, played it to him the next day, said, it hit right. That's how the record should sound. So I had great critics, even though as a young person I thought I knew everything, or I was trying my best and whatever. I still had great critics. I could take that on board, criticism. You know, I never kind of got vexed or nothing when it came to criticism. I'd take it on the chin and say, okay, and take sense from nonsense. If it wasn't good criticism, say, oh, no, I know what I'm doing. Or if it's good criticism, you take it on board. But I kind of had the confidence. That's the one thing I've always had in music. Not saying that I know everything I do is right, but I always had the confidence as a young kid to. Yeah, I didn't really follow friends or nothing. You know, I had the confidence to go to like Handsworth Carnival and stand right up next to the sound and watch them play. And my brother would meet me there at the carnival, and at some part of the carnival, I'd get the microphone and say, "Here, give the youth a chance," and Rhythm would play.
Yeah.
And we create vibes and mash up the place and disperse.
Yeah.
So I always had that confidence around when it comes to music. From an early age, you know, the confidence of saying, "Yeah, I want to do this and try something."
Yeah.
You know, so there was no fear in that sense.
Which is great to hear. You know, they do say without confidence, you're twice defeated. So it's good to have that.
Exactly.
Definitely. And so, do you remember that time where either you're on the mic or in the recording studio where you thought, or even on stage, you know, when you thought, this is my moment, like that moment where you kind of clicked it? I know you've been in it for so long, but has there been that moment?
You make me feel old now. I'll tell you what, the first time I sang, I was probably 9 years old, and it was just messing around, because we used to mess around my mum and dad went to work, my older brother loved the sound system in the house, and we'd be messing around with the mic and the echo chamber. I remember one day I sang a song, I think it was an Altonelli song, and I remember my older brothers looking at me saying, "Do that again, do that again." And that was the start of this little voice trying to create a sound. But I mean, everywhere we went back in those days, like I say, Carnival was a main thing in Birmingham. Handsworth Carnival, where I get the chance to hold a microphone around, like sounds like Wassifer Showcase and Now Generation and Romantic Bubbler. And all those times were great vibes. I mean, it really, I don't know, it gave you a real, boost of confidence to say yes.
Yeah.
Because every time we touched the mic, the crowd would rail, and it was like, yes, wicked, there's something here. But I never really recorded anything. Well, I did record like demos, but it was like a good 10, 12 years before I put out my first record, which was It Keeps Raining. And that was a time where, you know, like I say, having great critics around me like Ali to say, no, that's not right and this is right. We knew it was right, and I felt it was right at that time, 1993, January, February, when I pressed the first white labels of It Keeps Raining.
Wow.
And started distributing around the little local record shops up and down Birmingham, London.
Wow.
And I pressed 500. I probably only sold 100, but I still believed in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was funny that at that time, some of the pirate stations were playing the B-side. They were playing a song called True, 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 which is the B-side. They weren't playing It Keeps Raining.
Yeah.
I kept saying, no, It Keeps Raining's the hit. And it wasn't until I sent a copy to a gentleman by the name of Neil Ferris, who was a record plugger in London.
Yeah. He
would do radio and TV promotion for all the big artists, you know, Prince, Janet Jackson, U2, UB40. And as soon as he heard It Keeps Raining, he said, hit record, we need to talk. And I never signed a contract with Neil Ferris. He started a label on the back of It Keeps Raining. And I think I signed a contract 2 years after. It was a handshake. That's to show the genuine and the respect that can happen in this music business. It doesn't have to be on paper and or checks or nothing like that. It was a handshake deal, and it was basically a 50-50 deal. After all expenses, we split everything 50-50, and it's been the best lesson for me in music, to learn how to do business 50-50. And I've always tried to carry that concept in everything I do and every artist I work with. If I'm brought in as a producer and I'm financing the session or anything, I always say to the artist, let's do 50-50. That means after all costs are balanced and all the musicians are paid, we split 50-50, and I've done that with Lloyd Brown for 2 albums. I tried that with Peckins, and it worked for 6 months until we started making money, and then the balance changed.
Oh, okay.
Egos changed. But I've always tried to carry that concept of being fair, and sometimes it's probably even being too fair to some in some respects. But when you treat people well, I believe it will continue that way. You know, if the artist goes into production, they'll carry that concept as well. So like I say, Neil Ferris set that, you know, 50-50 kind of thing. And with Sly and Robbie, we've worked for 16 years, or we worked until Robbie passed away. And it was the same thing. We split 3 ways, after all costs, we split 3 ways and we share everything, and there's never an argument. We just work, make music, and go on tour.
Yeah.
And it works. So
Nice.
I keep saying it's the best chapter, but it really is. I mean, if my eyes closed tonight, I've had the greatest experience in music with some of the greatest people, and I'm totally satisfied.
Yeah, I hear that. And one thing I wanted to ask you, because as an artist, you make it look so easy. But you make it look so easy. But I wanted to know what kind of maintenance in regards to your voice and you're looking after yourself and those sort of things do you have to do as an artist?
Lots of sleep. It's a bit annoying to my wife and my kids, but no, I mean, I don't drink. I drink when the work's done, but I don't drink on stage, and I don't shout, and I don't talk before a show. Before you go to a show too early and you're talking to everyone and you're talking above the DJ's playing and you're talking, and you go on stage and you sing a few songs and your voice is
oh dear.
So I always turn up just for showtime, and I don't like talking before a show. People probably think I'm being diva-ish, but these are the only things. I mean, I don't drink when I'm working. If I'm singing, I think that's a bad thing to do. To be drinking alcohol to numb your voice. Your vocal cords are a bit like muscles, like you're doing weights or you're an athlete. That's the way I look at it. And if you abuse your vocal cords, they'll give up in time. You start sounding hoarse before your time, or you just start, you lose your notes. Or listening, I love soundsystem, but I can't stay in clubs too long, because I engineer as well. So I always think I need to protect my ears as well. So my ears and my voice, I really do kind of keep the maintenance in that sense. I try not to shout. I'm not a person that shouts anyway, But,
that's good.
Yeah. Plenty of rest. After show, you have to rest. There's none of this too much partying after show, especially when you're on tour. If you've got 14 shows in a row, the worst thing is to be out drinking and partying, and then by the time you get to sound check the next day, you can't even hit a note. So no, I don't do that.
Oh dear.
So the simplest thing, lots of rest. And no shouting or nothing. You really do have to look after your voice. If that's your discipline, you really have to look after it. Just like anything, you have to treat it with respect.
100%. And first of all, I wanted to say to you, congratulations on your LP release of Forward.
Oh, thank you, Forward. Thank you.
Because it's a beautiful piece of work. I'm not going to lie, it definitely is a beautiful piece of work. And I just wanted to know how long it took you, kind of the story behind it, and just how it came about.
Me and Sly and Robbie, we just continuously work. And there's a couple of rhythms, because everything's on hard drive and on tape. I can always just punch in something and just go through the drive and say, let me check that rhythm and check that rhythm. So some of the songs, or most of the songs I should say, have been laid brand new whilst Robbie was here with us. And then the last 4 or 5 songs on the LP, songs like Back in My Arms, there's another song, Let's Make Up, and Glass House. There's 3 or 4 songs that were on the drive that Sly and Robbie specifically built for me. And I just said, I'm going to come back to these ones, and there's hundreds of rhythms that I can come back to. But when I've been through, especially when you're working on a concept of an LP, you can kind of see the contrast within the album. It's not just a straight line. You have songs that take you up, songs that are serious, that will hit a certain note. So it's like finding a balance between the different contrasts of the album. So like I say, some tracks were laid specifically for Forward, and then it was a case, because we lost Robbie in December 2021, so it was a case of going back and listening to what we'd laid down. There's a song called Back in My Arms. That rhythm was laid in Jamaica in 2007, funny enough. And I just left it on tape. I was like, I'll come back to that. I've got an idea, but I can't find it right now. And as soon as I pushed it up, like in 21, it was one of the last songs on the album that I recorded, end of 2021. It just came natural. Back in My Arms, the lyrics just came naturally. I'm not a singer that writes with pen and paper. I usually just listen and record on spot. So most 90% of the songs that I record are recorded on the spot, straight to tape.
Wow.
And I just find that's a great way. For me, it works for me to capture the energy and something natural about the song. You know, you capture it straight away.
Yeah, because that was another thing I was going to ask you, was that every single song that you put out, it seems very organic. You know, like you've just thought about it in your head and it's come out, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, there's a truth in every song, I believe. You know, it doesn't matter what the topic is with any song. You know, you have, again, there's always this argument or debate about lyrics, especially in dancehall and reggae music, and lyrics that glorify gangsters or disrespect women.
Yeah.
But the truth about it is there's a truth in every song. I mean, and I really believe that. I don't believe that any song should disrespect a woman or glorify vanity. But that's me. Yeah. I can only speak from my truth. But the music is a living thing, and I keep going back to that point that the music alone shall live. You know, who knows? I've probably got 5 years left in music, or 10 or 15, who knows? But the music will live because it's touched a nerve, or it's done something for someone. You know, regardless if they know me personally or they like me or hate me, a song has a life of its own. Kat, I don't know if that makes sense, but
it definitely does.
To me, it does. You know, there's a truth in every song, and there's a life for every song. You know, when you release something, you don't know if it's gonna be a hit. I mean, I think I've passed that stage of trying to find a hit. I just make songs, you know, I just record and do what I feel, and I sing what I feel. And it's probably the greatest thing that I was never constricted or signed to a label or working under an A&R man saying, no, we don't like that song, try this, or we don't like that song, try something else.
Yeah.
Me, Sly and Robbie, we just created music and done what we believed in, and it captured the minds somewhere, you know, in the world. It captures the minds and the hearts of people, and that's the greatest joy. You know, it's probably more rewarding than a check coming through the post, because, you know, the money can be spent on bills in a few days, whereas the memories and the joy that music brings will last. You know, it lasts forever in some cases.
Yeah, 100%. A listener's asking, when are you next on tour?
We're working on the States at the moment. I hate saying that in one sense, because I do love travelling and stuff, but I'd love to be doing a tour in the UK, but it's so much hard work.
Yeah.
And I still feel that UK artists are still treated as second-class citizens to some degree.
Yeah.
You know, if it's an international artist, you'll see a list of dates, and I don't want to be a person that complains or starts comparing myself to other artists, but it's hard work in the UK to put a tour together. You know, it really is, and it's something that I can't do myself. I can't do everything. I can't produce, sing, release the records on my own label, distribute with me and Rads, and then I have to do a show. I don't mind doing a one-off, like I might do a Birmingham or London, but a whole tour is like, come on. It's a bit too much. And this week I already had a chat with someone and say, no, but you have to do Birmingham. We have to do a show before the end of the year. So I think Birmingham will be on the cards, November, December, and there'll be a London date before the year's out, just to give a little push to the album. But in terms of like doing a tour from, say, Scotland to Portsmouth, I need a bit of help with that. There's got to be some promoters that see the worth of some of us UK artists. You know, I've been around the block a long time now, so you know, if it doesn't happen, well, it's just one of those things. You know, I'm trying my best putting out good music, so if that doesn't work, I don't know what avenue I need to go. You know, it's a bit too much for one person to do, to be honest. You know?
Okay, 100%. Another listener is asking, why is the LP called Forward?
The album's called Forward, and it was really, there's a gentleman, Guillaume Bougard, who works with me, Sly and Robbie. He's a producer, and he's worked with Sly and Robbie for years, and it was him that reintroduced me to Sly and Robbie back in 2006, and we're all part of the same team. He runs a label, Midea. Sly and Robbie is Taxi Gang, and my label is Silent River, and we just incorporate everything and we work together. So it was Guillaume's idea. I'm terrible with album titles, so it was Guillaume that suggested Forward. You know, we've lost Robbie and we want to put something together that's great, that really just shows you know, that the love and respect for Robbie, and let's just call it forward. You know, we're still moving. And we're still moving in a forward direction. You know, we're not looking back. You know, Robbie's still with us in terms of his musical input and the time we spent, because there's a lot of time we kind of hung out and talk about nothing. We don't talk about music. We talk about life and politics and history.
Yeah.
So Forward was really like a tribute to Robbie. I mean, the whole concept of the album Forward is really a tribute to Robbie.
Yeah.
You know, Robbie Shakespeare and his work and his energies that he gave and his work ethic, which we continue to work in that vein. You know, and Sly, I must give shout out to Sly as well, because he's one of the architects as well. You know, who doesn't get the credit. Sly and Robbie don't get the credit that they're due. You know, there's so much people that relate to drum and bass, but don't know the some of the people that are the architects of drum and bass. You know, so enough respect to Sly and Robbie.
100%. We have, I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it you anyway. They're asking you if there was one song that you could direct them to, which one would it be?
In terms to go and listen to?
Yeah, that's why I said I'm not sure if you can answer it.
Oh, that's a difficult one. It's 30 years worth of work. I would say it would be something from Forward, and I would say, as far as I can see, which is off the new album, which is one of the conscious songs off the album. I think it's sometimes obvious. Yeah. People think I just sing love songs and stuff, but there's definitely some reality and some cultural songs on the new album. So without going too far back in the career, I'll keep it up to date and say anything from Forward, as far as I can see, or Back in My Arms. If you want to find a love song, Back in My Arms, or a reality song, As Far as I Can See.
Yeah. You know, to be fair, that was a hard one from even me to answer, because all of those tunes are really good.
What would you say?
I don't know.
And what would you say, DJ Kat? What would you say?
Me personally, I quite like Glass House.
Yeah.
And I do also like Back in My Arms as well. So it'd be between maybe them two.
So I didn't stray too far then.
No, I don't think you did at all. But yeah, this album is so good. That's why I was just like, I don't know if you're going to answer it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because, you know, it's funny that people are still discovering, which is a great thing in one sense. Yeah. You know, you got people that are still discovering. You know, they probably weren't there in the 90s. They weren't there in the Walkaway era, and they're suddenly hearing Bitty McLean. Who's he? Or they're just discovering Walkaway. I mean, you know, every week or every month there's someone that I've never heard of. Never heard of him somewhere in the world. So the music is still being discovered, and this is what I mean about the music alone shall live. You know, when people hear something and it resonates with them, it's really special.
It is. Is that legacy that we always speak of, isn't it?
Yep.
I like that answer. Yep. I do like that. But you know what, Bitty McLean, it's been an honour to speak with you. I really do feel privileged to have a conversation with you and speak with you.
Oh, that's cool. Because people always say, you don't do a lot of interviews, do you? It's like, I always like talking when I've got something to talk about, to be honest, you know. Or if there's something to post up. I don't do social media. I've got Nez, who's based in Leicester, that does all my social media. I don't think I've ever tweeted. I still write letters, so I'm really old school. But cool. I think when there's something to talk about, that's the time to kind of push forward. If there's nothing really to talk about, there's no point. Yeah. So, and sometimes less is more in some cases.
That's true. And you know what? Being old school isn't necessarily a bad thing. I quite like the idea of receiving a letter. You know, that's quite good. You know, I quite like that personally.
People don't do that anymore, do they?
No, it's just a text like hi, and it's like, okay, hi. You know, one of them.
It's all broken down into text and stuff. It's like, oh, come on. So now I kind of keep it authentic in that sense.
100%. And you know, I can't have you on here and not ask you if you would like to sing something. It's up to you.
Next time.
Next time. I'll hold you to that, you know. I'll play this to you.
I tell you what, someone done that to me the other day, and I thought, oh no. my mind was somewhere else. And oh no! So I thought, yeah, you know what? Next time, Kat, next time, you catch me when I'm in a better mood.
Oh, okay. Okay then. So, not singing, but what would you like to say?
Your listeners are probably saying that's not Bitty. That's his younger brother. He's pretending to be Bitty. We need to hear his voice.
Oh gosh.
So, yeah. Next time, okay.
Okay. But what would you like to say on a serious point to your fans, your listeners, and the people that support you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, thanks to all the music lovers, you know, because they make you what you are. You know, it's fine. I'm locked in the studio, in my studio, with Sly and Robbie making music, but we're trying to create music and vibes that can resonate.
Yeah.
With people and listeners, you know, across the globe, and that's not always a easy thing to do because we're limited in terms of the airplay. I'm limited. I'm here in England, but I'm limited in the amount of shows I'll be on in England. Not complaining or anything, but it's an uphill struggle, the whole thing in one sense. But we love what we do, and that's why we do it. And you know, the greatest thing is being on stage and seeing an audience sing your song.
Yeah.
And I see that every time, you know, I'm on stage, you know, whether it's the UK, Japan, or the States or around Europe, you see songs that really resonate and have become a part of people's soundtracks. So that's a beautiful thing, that is. You know, that's the joy. Like I say, it's probably better than a check coming through the post because we don't do it for money. You know, the money's the compensation, but that's not what's the word? You know, that's not really the thing that you wake up in the morning, I've got to make music to make money. You know, you make music and I'm free to do it. Like I say, I'm not assigned to anyone who tells me what to do to get what type of song to sing or what melody to write. So that freedom alone is a joy, and to be able to do it and complete the mission is that means everything. It's the greatest joy.
Yeah, I hear that. And you know, I want to say thank you to you as well for putting out this great music, and obviously all the musicians behind you. It is a blessing. It's a blessing to hear.
We've lost a few along the journey, a few that were even part of this album. Robbie, Dalton Brownie, Nambo Robinson, who was a trombone player on tour, Daryl Thompson, guitarist, Daddy Uroy, who was on one of the tracks. I didn't put it on the album. It was just like I couldn't listen to it. To be honest, you know, it was still kind of raw that we've lost Daddy Uru, who's a good friend of mine, Daddy Uru. So maybe in the future that will drop. But I give thanks to all the musicians: Stepper, Dean Fraser, Robbie Lynn, and I just hope we can just keep going and keep putting out good music. You know, good music that will resonate with the right people. We'll find the right people. You know, who have ears will hear, and who have eyes will see.
That's it. And as they say, play it from the top to the very last drop.
From the top to the very last drop. That's what I always say. Definitely, DJ Kat.
Every time.
And we never give up, man. Once you love something and you give your heart and soul, never give up. It has ups and downs, and there's hit holes and mines set for you. But once you love what you do, that's the greatest. It doesn't even feel like a job then. You know, you're doing something that you love and enjoy. It doesn't feel like a job in that sense. Yeah,
and you know, I'm going to keep on playing this LP because it's fantastic, and I thank you for your time and just talking.
Excellent.
To me. It's
thank you, DJ Kat. And next time, I'll make sure I give you a line or two next time.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to that, you know.
Take care. Enough respect.
Same to you. More love. Bless up. Bless.
Every time. Thank you.
No problem. Yes, people, please do go out there, support Bitty McLean. If you haven't heard him, go and check him out because he is a fantastic artist and keeps on with the positive vibrations of music each and every time. One of those tunes that I want to play, from the great LP, is Be Accepted. Take a listen.
Be accepted in the sight of the Almighty One.